Good morning, people, and those who have joined online. Um, Welcome to this broadcast. This morning is the 23rd of the 4th, 2024, coming live from Sydney, Australia, where today we'll be talking about a different number of topics and a few questions that we have written down. Today we have a special guest coming all the way from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Um, so welcome to my support worker Sarah, and we'll be starting with some questions today. And so yeah, we've just had a coffee, so feel free to have a cold beverage or a cup of tea, and just sit back, relax, and enjoy while you learn something, and we can learn from your feedback if you leave a comment below when this video is done. Thank you. So here we go. Sarah, can you please give us some questions, and it would be nice to hear from your response.
Sure. Okay, so question number one is anybody in this world can suffer from loneliness, but I think it's probably more particularly felt with people who are elderly and those that are living with mental health problems. So what do you think, or what do you use to help yourself to overcome this problem?
So that's a very intriguing question, isn't it, guys? So with my mental health diagnosis, which was back in 2010, the severity of it was on a large scale, which got me committed to a mental facility for a number of 10 years. The tools and strategies I use with coping with the mental health issue with being lonely is I tend to put a lot of time into my music and writing lyrics about poetry and my experiences in the mental health unit that have shaped the man who I am today. Without those experiences, I wouldn't know a lot about how to cope with the downs and ups of mental health. I think reading books, playing music, and reading the Bible is a very good tool to navigate through the loneliness and the dread of being lonely. Even though sometimes you're around a lot of people, you can feel isolated, lonely, and depressed, even feelings of sadness and despair. But through these times of trouble, once you realize it's like waves going to and fro, throwing you around, shaking you up, breaking you up, molding you, and making you into a resilient person that you are. It goes to show that these experiences not only make you strong, but can be a positive influence on your life to help others and guide others on their way of loneliness and despair. Also, with the elderly, I believe they've been through life and have been so weary that sometimes they're full of beans and are full of happiness and sunshine. Other times they cannot get out of bed and are crippled by their own mind, and they just want to go home, and they can't last a lot out in public due to their fitness, and their capacity to be productive as they were when they were younger. But yeah, they just love to have company and play board games and hear the word of God that can strengthen them in their loneliness. And so these are some of the tools and factors that can help shape someone who is living with a mental health disorder, who is elderly. And yeah, it's never too late to change if you keep your faith and keep your hope in the one that created you. And yes, his name is Jesus. So thank you, Sarah. Next question.
All right. So, so you've talked about from your experience, from your first diagnosis and going into hospital until now, which helps you get that perspective of being able to ride the lows with the highs. But what about people who think, when you're in your low point, or you're feeling really lonely or down, or struggling with, I don't know, panic attacks and anxieties or all sorts of other conditions. For those people who are maybe just starting on this journey and don't have that perspective of knowing that, when you come out of a trough or a low, you will go through a period of ease, and in a better place for a while. But then how would you, what would you say to them? Because when you're in that period of a real low or darkness, you kind of can think that this is only happening to me and no one understands what I'm going through, right? Do you think that how do they reach out to, to help them to understand that, if this is very early in that kind of diagnosis?
Yeah, that's a very complex question, Sarah, and very controversial. That's a very good question to ask, and I think for me it's about early intervention.
Yeah, right.
It's about catching it early before it gets full blown. I say for someone going through that, please reach out to someone you can trust, or someone that you look up to, or some clinical professional that can hear you out and deal with the troubles that you're struggling with, because we can't do this alone. It's a battle that must be won in numbers, and yeah, it's no one size fits all. So that's the issue I have with explaining these type of things. I myself am not a clinical professional, so what I'm going through and what you are going through is completely different to the status quo. Sometimes there's just no answers. Then having faith in the word, and taking certain medicines, and being productive, and knowing that the situation that you're in will pass. It's not forever. Life is full of ups and downs, turmoil, trauma, adversities, and struggle. Not one of us can hide from our fears. Trouble will find us one way or another. It's just about not complicating your mind, but keeping your sanity in a right directive space and a clear-headedness, so you can make clear and conscious decisions moving forward, not complicating your mind, but moving forward in a moment of truth and not error. So once you get to master and be disciplined with your mind to move forward in knowing that you won't be in that situation forever, but it will pass. Then you're on your way to a healthier and better you, which can be with good nutrition, sunlight, talking with friends, having a phone call, having a video chat, going to your places of worship, or even baking some scones. I love scones. And so with all jokes aside, it's about riding the wave, as I said in my earlier comment, and early intervention is the key. Recognizing those red flags and putting them together and coming up with a good combination of either medication or tools and such as things you love, and having an approach of loving yourself with self-care. Putting yourself first at times is not selfish, because we can't pour from an empty cup. We need to rejuvenate ourselves. And in saying that, then you can help your fellow man and be a light to this dark and sometimes perverse world. But there is some hope in this generation. So, yeah, thank you, Sarah.
All right. So, when you said that using tools and things to help you to be a bit more progressive, do you think that everybody's different, right? And each situation is different. But do you think that people and yourself have and do benefit from services such as, like, could be, church services or social services or NGO services, elderly, whatever, all different types of services? Or is family enough? Some people are a bit scared to, go out there, or they might not like someone and therefore they don't try it, or they might be suffering from anxiety. So do you think that it is beneficial, or not?
In saying that, I think it's beautiful to have a family around, but unfortunately we need to be independent to create a future for ourselves. In saying that, services such as church services, homeless services, mental health services, elderly services, all these can be very beneficial for someone, because they can create a structure and a routine for someone who is lonely and depressed and suicidal. It can help them with hope and help them carry out their day-to-day activities. So that's pretty good that these services are available. It's just a matter of tapping into them and finding the right people and making the right choices and decisions that people are scared to make, because there are services that abuse clients and oppress them and don't actually help them at all, but actually create a like you said, a certain type of fear of reaching out, and it's very hard for them to reach out to someone who they can't trust. So I think it's about building that bond. Building that bond and trust with someone you really want to work with and help shape a better future. So I think those services can be very beneficial, but there's nothing like family. You really have a heart felt for your family, But in saying that, I believe love is thicker than blood. That's why Jesus is the ultimate father, and he knows all things, so there's no need to stress about what the future holds. It's just matter of trusting in him, and he will guide us to the light, and just building that bond and trust with your support worker or carer or family, loved one that you're sharing your struggle with. So thank you for that.
That's right. I've only got one more.
All right.
And that was, while I think a lot of people are becoming more understanding of people that are suffering from these problems, in particular those with mental health, or maybe people are just more aware, there is more awareness. But in reality, when it actually happens to them or to someone that they know and love, there can still be a sense, and this can maybe is cultural as well, but there can still be a sense of shame, or that there's nothing wrong with the person, they just need to snap out of it, or
pull out your bootstraps.
Yeah, that's right, just carry on, chin up type of attitude. What would you say to those people that are not accepting that something potentially could be happening to that person, and how would they go forward from that? A lot of people would just ignore, or not ignore, but they just don't believe that happens to them. It always happens to someone else. So what would you say to that person?
Well, Sarah, have you heard of the saying "ignorant is bliss"?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That runs very deep. I'm pretty sure people who have seen someone in a psychotic state can easily point fingers and judge that person for what they're going through, and it's easy to make assumptions.
Yes. Yeah.
But when reality actually hits and that person is going through that thing, there's actually no manual. It's quite traumatic for the family members and that person going through that type of thing. But at the end of the day, we all have to work together to try and reduce the number of diagnoses for a better and safer world. As we know, we've had that Bondi incident, which is very sensitive.
That's right. Yeah.
And the church incident, which is also very sensitive.
So that thing of not being judgmental, right? It's difficult, isn't it? Because people, you automatically think something about a person when they're clearly unwell, and then people could maybe initially they blame the parents or blame whoever or blame the system or blame whoever, just as long as someone can be blamed for that thing that happened. Well, like you said before, there's no manual, there's no right or wrong way, because everybody's different and everybody's individual, and that's an extremely rare product of somebody who has mental health.
Exactly.
It's not usual that ends up being such an extreme act from someone who's suffering. But for those people, like he obviously was in a very not a good space. how do you, like we were talking before about lows and highs, how do you, I don't know, get them to, who knows what the situation was, don't know, but how do you try and prevent that from, like they say in the newspapers, there was the system let the person down, but how do you try and, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But you know, how do you try and make it not be so bad? It depends on his diagnosis too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Exactly, like I was saying, with the red flags, it's kind of very hard to detect because it can go under the radar.
Yeah.
And these type of things are so ingrained in the person that they're so unwell that they can actually detect and go undetected from their own psychiatrist and police authorities.
Yeah, and even in situations where obviously it's not ending in something like you want to hurt somebody, but they can hurt themselves. Like people with suicide, you know, that a lot of people don't even know that they were, thinking of that until after it happens.
Yes, and I think being infiltrated by the media and those type of things can cause someone to be in that state of heaviness and darkness, to come out to the light. And like I said, with the services, they can only do so much.
Yeah.
And these people are actually crying out for help. And unfortunately, we're going to always have cases as these during now, the present and the future.
Yeah.
But for now, I think there is still no cure for mental illness, as in reality it's been more acceptable these days to talk about it more openly. You see it in sport, politics, education, and even talk shows that are more open about talking about the mental health of people and how it implicates families and members of society.
Yes, yeah.
So I think we're moving forward in that way. But I think we're far from where we would like to be, but I think we're in the right progress and we're on the right track in building a better and safer future for our young generation.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sarah.
It's all right, thank you.
Thank you for joining, and this is Malachi Casey, and thank you for listening, and hope to hear from your feedback, and have a beautiful day. And remember Anzac Day on Thursday, which is the 25th of April, the going down of the sun and the rising of the lest we forget. Thank you very much, and peace out.